Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we love you. God, we just praise your name for all things. We thank you for the many blessings you bring. God, we just thank you for the beautiful weather outside. Lord, we ask that as we meet tonight, that you would just be with our city leaders, Lord, that you would give them wisdom, that you would just allow them to make good decisions, Lord, and I pray that all things tonight would be done in your glory. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Samantha, you want to lead us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and convene our meeting. Start with a roll call. Misty Cottle.
Here.
Jeff Upton. Here. Jan Throgmorton.
Here.
John Collins.
Here.
Kira Hungate.
Here.
Don Rollins. Joe Tower.
Here.
Dina McKnight.
Here.
The city attorney and city clerk are both present. The first item of our agenda is the adoption of the agenda as it was mailed. Do we have any changes or modifications to that?
Motion to accept it.
We have a motion and a second to accept the agenda. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is the approval of our meeting minutes from February 11th, 2020. Do we have any changes that need to be made to those? Do we have a motion?
I'll make it. Second.
Motion and second to approve our meeting minutes from February 11th. All those in favor say yes.
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 Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is our public forum, where we'll allow anyone that would like to address the council with questions or concerns to come up and talk to us. We would try to limit you to 2 minutes, and we won't take any action on any topics brought up at the public forum. Yes, sir. Would you like to address us at the public forum? I think so.
Okay, I will be speaking on 3 different things this evening, and I don't know, I do have a few comments as a citizen of West Fork about the Recycle Center, and I don't know if you'd like to hear those now.
Certainly can.
So, I'm not up to date on the current cost or what the proposal is to eliminate the Recycle Center, but I did want us all to remember that, you know, it was about in the last 19 years that we had volunteers that worked really hard to create that center. Henry Griffith, Paul Bohr, and we can't forget Patty Baker and her years of volunteering down there at the center, and there were a lot of people that made that happen. The other thing that I think that we should just remember before we make a decision is that we don't have any glass pickup in our current contract for recycling. So if you want to recycle glass, if we don't have that center, then we have to the citizens are taking it to town. And I know that a lot of people who use the center also go to the farmer's market and to the library and to Harps and use the West Fork amenities. And so I kind of worry, you know, as we talk about trying to boost the economics in West Fork, that if people have to take their glass and recycling to Fayetteville, then they're probably gonna shop and eat and do all of that in Fayetteville while they're there, instead of just going over here to take their recycling. So I think it's a really positive thing that we have it. Of course, like I said, I don't know the economics about, or really the discussion before that, so.
So I think we will be able to answer a lot of your questions. I haven't seen the final product of what we'll have tonight, but it's my understanding we've got quite a bit of information concerning that.
And I'm sure that it takes city time, and I'm sure it's a line item budget, but I just felt like perhaps I should say those things.
I'm glad you did.
Because it's very I come up here as a private citizen. So on the topic of small town big lights, the public opinion presented Wednesday, December the 2nd as the date for the parade. And the public that voted in that said that they really don't care about the theme, but they'd like to have some awards for the best float. So Amanda Bunch is our chair on that. And Upton is going to continue with the vendors on the parade. And Leslie Cottle is doing the Small Town Big Lights contest. And there's some really interesting high-tech ideas on how people might vote on that. And then, let's see, so we are going to be asking for donations beyond the lights contest to also pay for some small awards for the best float or presence in the parade. And the next time that the committee is going to meet is in October. So we'll meet Tuesday, just right, October 29th at 6. So there's plenty of time if that date is incorrect. And the 29th, does that sound correct, Dan? Yes. Okay, Tuesday the 29th of October at 6 o'clock. And then Chad has some really awesome updates about the memorial, so thank you.
Very good. Any questions for Jennifer before she gets down? No? All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Samantha, do you have an update on how the school's going? Good? Okay.
You gotta stand up there.
All right, we'll close our public forum and move into our business reports. First is the Planning Commission.
Walter could not be here tonight, and so we have began reviewing the new zoning, and so our next meeting, we're going to hit that pretty hard and go through it so that we can have a public forum on the topic and give it over for a final blessing on that. And we did have a conditional use come before the commission for an Airbnb using a trailer in a residential zone. And by Friday, we'll know if we're having a public forum on that before the next planning commission meeting on March the 19th. So we felt that the Airbnb topic and the trailer, that perhaps we should see what the public forum brings out to see what people really would prefer us do on that. And so there's that.
Brief comment about
Please.
you mentioned that you guys are going to have you're going to go through that, what Jeff has prepared,
Yes.
go hard, and then get a public hearing going. So the public hearing would be probably not maybe in April, or do you think in May?
Probably June or July.
What?
You know, if we could have it to the council by August, that would be amazing. But we feel like that we're blessed to finally have a full commission, and so we really don't want to go through hastily and just, you know, blanket pass something that, you know, we haven't read or discussed as a commission yet. And so to get a timeline on that is something that hopefully we will come forth with on the next planning commission meeting to discover how long it's going to take us to do this so we can better define it.
In my experience,
Yes?
when we do one of these whole town, when we sort of change wholesale, it's great if we can have several. Remember when we've had a couple meetings
Yes.
in the
I agree with that.
because people will go to sleep the night that it's passed, and they will wake up with another set of rights than the ones they went to sleep with. Even though we really try to match those rights up, you know, somebody's going to wake up with a different set of rights.
Sure.
And they're going to say, how could you do this? And they're going to say, when did you do this? And you're going to say, we've been inviting you to meetings for 6 months now.
Right.
We've been begging you to come. So the more we do, the old school thinking is you don't want a lot of public comment. In zoning, we really do.
We really
We want
do.
everyone to get in there and look at where their house is and where their property is, and try to understand the new schedule of uses and the new zones. So that when they wake up the morning after we pass it, the city council, they won't go, wait a minute, you can't do this to me.
I
So,
agree.
I just wanted to, as you guys are heading into that, because you
So
mentioned.
perhaps August isn't realistic.
Oh, no, whatever you do, a series of meetings where you really try to get people out, try to even be creative and get people out to look at it. And set up your maps in somewhere where you can set them up and leave them up.
I think that would be most useful for the commission to, hear the public comments on that and try to get something that, as we all try to position ourselves for growth that, is undefined at this point on when we might have growth, but we should probably address our zones and get things cleaned up and be ready, so.
So Jennifer, before you sit down, I haven't updated anyone on the planning commission about this, but Christy and Isaac and I did meet with a developer, was that last Monday? I think that's right. And so, have we heard any more from them since then? No? Okay. So someone was looking at subdividing over on Smith Street.
Yeah.
So
Continuous.
we've had several. And then Christy also identified something, I think, when we were talking to that developer, that we need to address in this version of the zoning ordinance.
The lot sizes.
Yeah. So we need to get that information to them as they start to look over it.
Yes.
And Christy can still remember what it is. I can't.
I am sure that Christy will remember. We have no doubt about that. So.
Okay.
If he keeps us in check, and we appreciate it. So, yes. Any other questions?
Mark?
Well, I'd like to ask, since I'm on this commission, what is our best way of giving this out to the public to get their attention, get their input?
So we've got a couple ways that we typically contact people. One is we'll put something out on their water bill when we get to that point. And then we'll use Facebook to put that out.
Water bill costs sufficient.
Well,
Pretty much.
to be honest with you, Mark, we can go knock on every door, and as the city attorney said, after it's passed, people will say, when did this happen? So we would
I
have,
just didn't know what the procedure was.
Yeah,
We'll be thinking-
We really don't have a local paper here.
right.
Give away food, that'll bring them out.
Free food.
Be thinking of any unusual sorts of tactics we could bring short of, the things that the mayor said and, fire the post office, right? So I'm not sure about that, but we should definitely, try to encourage the folks in your constituents to attend and get their input, because we don't live in Westport by ourselves.
That's right. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yes, sir.
Next, our library report with Shane Reed.
We have 6 high school students that are painting our construction partition to match our summer theme and to provide creativity in our community. So we have half chalk, black paint, and then half of their art. So make sure you stop by to draw something or write your favorite book quote on our wall. And construction should be completed at the end of this month, which is pretty crazy. So we're continuing to plan the layout of our library and the best way to start moving back our 12,000 items and shelves back into our library. So that's what's going on.
Any questions for Shannon? Has anyone went down and looked at the new edition?
With construction ending in March, right now we would think by May we'd be able to have a grand opening, maybe after school ends, when there's that break between school ending and summer. So you'll have to come down then for sure.
Yeah. So they took out all those poles that were in there. When I went in there the other day, it was way bigger than I anticipated it being. Just from what I knew of the old library, when you go in there, it's really opened up. With the exception of the one beam that Chief Nelson will be able to walk under, it's really open down there.
That's right. We have the space for materials, the break room, the storage room, and a really large meeting room. It's being added.
Any questions for Shannon? I'm still amazed that there's been almost 10,000 books checked out in the library, or 10,000 items in 2 months. Tracy, give us the court report.
Let's see. So this month, our disbursements were down about $612 from last month. And our year-to-date disbursements are down a little over 1,000 from last month. But we were actually, like, on cases, we were up 52 from last month and 34 from last year.
And so, Tracy, I know we've been working on this report for some time. I think used to we had a city disbursement column.
I didn't take anything off.
Okay.
There's
City right there.
the city share is up there.
Is that the
and then
disbursement?
cost.
To the city, or is that what goes into the allotment? So let's look into that.
Well,
Work in progress.
do you know about that, Christie?
I'm looking to see if I can grab additional list on that.
So I thought on the old report, Christie, there was the disbursements, but it was broken out by county and city and state for the disbursements.
Was it,
So this city share is what actually stays in the city, so that 5,900 goes back into the district court budget under the general fund. The 14,000, it goes to the police department in the general fund. And then the 2,900, I think those are the time paid fees that go back into the administration of justice fund.
Okay, so the 5940 would be basically the disbursement for the city.
That's the court cost, the city's share of the court cost.
Okay, okay.
I think that 2,900 actually was like things that we had to send back, like refunds and, I think that that's what I have there is all of the, like we have people that sometimes overpay or, if they show up, like they have a new thing called the bond project. And so these people, it's called the bond project, whatever group it is, they pay a cash bond for defendants. When the defendants show up and the case has been settled, every bit of that money goes back to the bond project so they can get other people out. So that is in there.
Okay.
So we had a whole bunch of them, and I know one person got $2,100 back this month. So I think that's what that other part is. But I can look into.
Yeah, let's look
but
into it.
I'm just like distributing things the way I was showed to do it.
I know.
I don't know where all these numbers
Now,
are.
do they get the whole thing back or after fines? Because I thought fines and everything come out of that money.
On the bond project,
Uh-huh.
everything goes back to the bond project,
Gotcha.
okay? But on the other stuff, if they have paid in a cash bond, we take their fines and
Yeah.
fees out, and then they get
So it's
whatever's
two
left
separate
over.
things.
Yeah, it's a brand new way of doing things, and it's working out for some people that have no way out.
Yeah.
It's really helping them out, and they're very grateful, and most of them show up right on time every time. And the bond people come in with them to make sure that they're here and get their rides and everything. It works out good for all of us so
Yeah.
far, except for the turning back the money.
Yeah.
It's a little bit extra work, but it's well worth it. So, that's good.
Any other questions for Tracy? Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, Officer Goggins, I think you're going to help us with the police report tonight.
I'll do my best. Good evening. I'm obviously not Chief Nelson. He's been under the weather today. Should be short and brief here. 327 calls for service, a little bit lower than last year. I'm not sure if it was the last council meeting or the one before, they talked about concerns about the speeds on Pleasant Street. We did deploy our radar sign there for approximately over a month, and it averaged out to be people that were in excess of about 10 miles per hour of the speed or more was a whopping 0.38%. So 98% were going with 30 miles per hour or less in that 20 mile per hour zone. So that hasn't played out in the numbers as being a racetrack, or I don't know what the complaint was, but we didn't deploy that down there and it didn't play out. Also, fun fact, I think the last time Chief was up here, he was talking about some negative press on Facebook. We did get some positive stuff that's in your packet there. Our part-time officer, Officer Crane, went out there and helped a person that was stranded on I-49, got him gas. Two ladies, yeah.
Two people you got that
And,
helping.
yeah, so we did that. We also had a email to our department. We worked a case that involved a juvenile, and some unfortunate and sensitive things happened unfortunately to her, and we were able to take that case all the way through adjudication, and he did receive a pretty good sentence for what he did. He was held accountable for that, and the parent did send us an email, and that is also in your packets. The other thing for you tonight is going to be a policy change on naloxone. Basically, I'm sure you guys have probably heard about that. It's the overdose drug that kind of reverses people that have opioid overdoses. So it's something that pretty much across nationwide has been a big push. I know that our governor started in 2017 to make a big deal about it, and now they put it out in 2019 are going to be effective. I'm not sure where that falls, the legislative session, but it's going to be mandatory that law enforcement in the state have at least some training on it, and they also recommend that we adopt a policy, so we're going ahead and getting on board with that, and that policy is going to be before you. We've completed our update on our CPR, which is a prerequisite for that, and then the department will be completing training in the next 30 days, give or take. I think everybody that will take that and walk some training, that they'll be able to administer that someone they find is overdosing. So that's something we're looking at. Of course, there's going to be some issues as far as shelf life and cost and stuff like that, so we're not necessarily have all those problems solved, but we're at least going to get the training, and I think the person that initially donated the injectables is looking at how to actually transition those into nasal injections using a little kit, a syringe kit, so we can still use those, but not actually having to use a needle and stab somebody. The nasal is going to be the preferred method as far as administration, so that's what we're looking at changing to, and I think that's what they're going to do. So, entertaining.
Save some lives.
Yes,
Police are first on the scene.
I've witnessed that, and it's like
Immediate.
a rise, upset and vomiting.
Exactly.
So it's pretty amazing.
Any questions for Officer Goggins concerning the police department? This is your chance. Thank you, sir. And thank you for going the extra mile on that case as well.
Not a problem.
Me?
Isaac?
I'm gonna keep mine brief. Nick has a update for y'all on sewer, and he brought some slides and some pictures and stuff to show you of the main one. So, we are business as usual, fixing part repairs on South McKnight. If anybody's been down that way, we tore up the neighborhood down there. We're like one down there, and we'll be done in that area, and we've already identified a major one down here on Doe that we're going to start on. That's going to require place about 150 foot line. The whole bottom's gone out of it. We started TV in the rest of Basin 2, which is the community center and run the library and that. So SCADA is fixed, no more tank overflows. So hoping we see that result. Although we did have a main break on the day we read meter, so no promises. We replaced the pump in the pump station, the water pump. It was an initial cost on the front end, but it's already paying off. We're seeing our pump times down because it's pumping so much more water than the old one that was in there. So I'm proud of that. It was time for that one to be replaced. So. And I replaced the tile down there at Carnes Cemetery Road. I hope that's working good.
No wonder.
Yeah, so that was one of the big things that come into those 100 feet of tile there that we replaced. So, but other than that, unless anybody's got any questions for me, we're just digging holes.
But each one of those holes is saving money.
Yeah, and I was going to bring y'all a visual aid, but y'all probably don't want to carry a piece of sewer pipe in here. But what we're finding most of them is a tap that's actually glued onto the main. It's just a little saddle that's glued onto the side, and it has a couple of hose clamps on it. Every one of those are broke, so 90% of the taps that we TV's got water poured in them. So that's what we replaced down there. We replaced 4 taps right there on McKnight, right there. Just south of Kelly. So
this is kind of a rhetorical question, I guess, but is that not something that first group that we paid to come in and TV, is that not something they would have found?
should have, the one that we identified down here on the road should have been found in that. Because there's, like I said, there's there's 150-foot pipe where the bottom of it's gone. It's just pushed up and it's just got water pouring in it. So,
Those taps, when they're broke, are they just from settling, or?
I think so. I think the glue's just let loose. The bands are gone.
They're pretty chintzy
Yeah,
style tap to begin with, because it's, what is it, a Fernco?
it's
It's not even
not
Fernco.
even a Fernco.
It's just those two band clamps
It's
and
just a gray plastic, looks like a football that they just glued on the side.
it's not, it's a field expedient method for doing things in a hurry, but it's, I
Yeah.
mean, Nick would probably.
Every one we've found has been like that, where it's been cracked, or like the one we dug up today was a bell leading, that was cracked, so. But yeah, it's 90% of the taps are broken, leaking. So we've only got 600-700 more to go. One a day, like mine.
Well, one question, looking at the street numbers, there's like 35 and a half, 35,669. Is that part of why we're in a deficit on the street, is all the extra work, or?
Part of that is, I don't think we've been reimbursed for, we made a big payment towards the Robinson sidewalk.
Okay,
We have not been reimbursed yet.
so then that's why sidewalks are 57 out of 64 on the
Yeah.
budget? Okay.
So that's what you'll see there. Anything else? I'll let Nick have it then.
Thank you, sir.
Howdy.
Did you bring us some drone footage?
I did. A little bit. The funny thing is we got our drone pilot, licensed drone pilot, to show them the project area. Come to find out, the entire project, except the southern maybe half mile, is within a zero fly zone because of Drake Field. So if we want to fly anywhere north of, we can get a little bit north of the plant, anywhere beyond there we have to get FAA approval and special clearances to fly a commercial drone. But we did get some footage, it's pretty good, I'll show you. Just give you a quick update, we've been digging a lot of holes ourselves too. Big hole at the lift station, that's going well. They've poured the foundation and 2 lifts, I call it, at the wall. They've come up about 16 feet or so on the walls, and then they got one more pour to get to the top and start pouring the vault. I got some pictures of that. We've laid about a little over 1.5 miles of force main and about 1.25 miles of gravity line coming back towards the plant. So total about 2.8 miles, 7.5 miles. So a little over a third complete as far as pipe installed in the ground. So things are moving well. The weather's been cooperating for the past week or 2. Looks like that's about to
Take a couple weeks off.
yeah, it's about to change, but they'll keep working through it. They are boring under the river there in Greenland too, if you'll drive by and see, the equipment down there and casing pipe. They're currently under the river. Everything's going well there. Haven't had any issues there. So things are going well. We've got, give you a quick update at the plant. Our lab results has still been looking really good there. The people call phone numbers have been zeroing out. I think last week it was non-detect on that and E. coli. ADQ is supposed to be sending us a letter in response to our request to reduce sampling frequency and maybe get that public health advisory lifted. I talked to their enforcement guy Friday, and he said they may ask for a few other things, but they did meet with the health department and are looking into it. They didn't ignore our request. So we're waiting on that. Things are looking good there, and we've just been supporting Isaac where we can with rehab, giving input, and did some survey along McKnight for rehab that may need to be done along there. So things are moving along good. I've got some pictures somewhere.
I think you need to stall for a little bit longer.
Don't need to-
Here's a question.
Sure.
There was an administrative issue on the Fulbright board. I'm assuming that's resolved.
We got that resolved. We got what RDOT calls an exception granted. We had to go through a special approval process just because we had to shallow up our bore by several feet because we got into a really hard rock layer that was going to pose some challenges. So we're going to be real shallow going under a little bar ditch on the north side of the highway there, but of course the highway's elevated like 30 feet, so they just want us to add some ditch paving over where we cross under there. We'll be about a foot and a half under the ditch when we cross it. They usually like 4 foot, but we told them that couldn't happen. So that's resolved and moving forward, and so we've been working through, knock on wood, we haven't had any major hiccups at this point, just some little things here and there. Found a force main a little closer to our line, and Greenland's force main was a little closer and deeper than what we thought, so we're having to work around that. I was just talking to Isaac about that, but good contractor, we're working through stuff on the fly and keeping things moving.
At what point will they start using the, is it 24-inch pipe? The upsize that Fayetteville's paying?
Will they start installing that, or?
Yeah, that should be
that's-
getting close, right, to that?
Yeah, they're gonna do the bore under the freeway first, which the subcontractor going under the river is gonna, when he gets done there, he'll move over to Fulbright and start that bore. That's gonna take some time to get under there. That's about 420 feet, and they've gotta be spot on coming out on the other side within a foot or so.
So he wants his invert solid before he starts the training run?
Yeah, we need to set that, and then they'll start laying gravity line. But they're doing good on schedule as far as percent complete.
Yeah, I've been really surprised how they worked through the
4 months
rain
in.
that they've been in, so.
And I'm talking to Randy, he'd like to be a little bit further along, but given the weather they've had, they've done a good job working through it, I feel like, so.
Well, the highway's not red or brown,
Yeah.
which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Given when you look at the bore site on the river, and go across, you think, ooh,
Yeah,
I don't have that job.
yeah.
It's telling us we have to format it, so I'm not sure why it's not pulling up right.
It won't pull up in there.
I'm trying to pull it up to see if we can format it.
So maybe next week before we get our drone footage.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Had some good ones, some flyovers, he even flew through they cleared the trees over there along Dye Creek coming up to the plant. He actually flew through the trees and then popped up and came up on the job site. So I was wishing I could show them to you.
This was in two television, you had no idea. And then you get back, filling headquarters.
No?
Not gonna work.
All right, we'll try it next month.
My apologies, Phil.
It's okay.
Put it on yesterday. I was all excited to show you all. So.
Are there any other questions for Nate?
Any questions?
What's going on, we can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see too, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Visually see it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chad?
I'll start with that memorial update that Jennifer was talking about. We have a local Boy Scout named Caleb Patrick that is interested in helping with the memorial, building the pavilion for the fire truck, as well as doing some sidewalk, pouring some sidewalks and things as an Eagle Scout project. So, met with him a couple times. Isaac and I met with him, got him the information that he needed to turn in, so he's waiting for that to be approved as a Eagle Scout project. So I think I don't see a reason why it shouldn't
And they've done,
Boy Scouts are calling right now.
there you go. Not on me, so.
That's who that is, so.
So, the good thing is about that, he is on a time frame when he has to have that done, and it's May 12th. So we will, has to have it done, has to have it approved and everything. So once he gets the approval as a project, he'll get started, and it won't take them long. They've done some stuff for me at the park as Eagle Scout projects, and they're pretty efficient once they get all the paperwork done. So we should have a pavilion, some sidewalks, and some things accomplished down there soon. So, any questions on that?
Are they paying for it or doing the work?
Well, mostly just the work. We have some of the materials, and we have some funding to purchase some more of the materials in the budget as well for that project. But if there are other needs, he will, as part of his project, he will reach out and look for donations and different things. So they could help financially as well. Anything else? Okay. As far as the parks go, baseball and softball's pretty well in full swing. The high school has been down there practicing as much as possible with rain and all, and their regular season started last week. They were able to get in 3 home games, which is phenomenal. My teams, we wound up with 21 teams in our program with just over 250 kids. A little bit down from last year, but a little bit up from the year before, so it's staying right in that ballpark. We've been, with the break in the rain the last couple of weeks, we were able to get some projects done on the fields as well as the facilities and stuff. We're not where we wanted to be at this point, but we're not bad. So that's going well. The disc golf course, again, with the weather break, we were able to get our T signs installed, a few of our caution signs. I think we have a few more warning signs to put up in certain areas, flying disc and just different things like that. There's still a lot of cleanup. It's going to be a work in progress for sure for a while. Getting brush, we haven't been able to burn them. We haven't been able to get in there to haul them off, so we still got some brush, but it's playable. T signs are up. They look great. We did, I should have led with that, but the official name of the course right now is just the Carter Park Disc Golf Course. So our signs say, if you have UDisc or any one of those apps, you can find it on there. It'll be mapped. They're working on that, getting it mapped and get on there, so when you play it, it'll also tell you where the holes are and stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting. We're also still have to get in some entry signs and our things. We're looking at options on what we want to do there as far as what kind of sign and where we want to put it, things like that. But our T signs and the things you need to play are installed. So there's pretty days. There's quite a few. Sometimes when I'm down there, I kind of watch and keep a little mental tally as we're going. Some days there'll be 15, 20 cars come through there just in the daytime when we're down there. So as spring comes on stuff, I think it's going to be exciting. And then the last thing is, I brought this up the last couple of meetings, is the bike trail that we're working on, putting around Carter Park, bike / pedestrian trail. We're applying for a couple of different grants. One of them is a TAP grant. We do have to have engineer involved with that, so I have met with engineers, getting me some proposals on cost and things like that, and also assisting in applying for those grants as well. So hopefully we'll get something moving on that soon. It's probably something that we won't actually start construction or things, because a lot of these grants aren't due for a while, so we won't know on that as well. But we don't want to start now the ball season, so it'll be later, but the ball is rolling. And I think I've got some feedback from some of the public that I've talked to, and people are excited about that. It's come together nicely down there. So I think that's it.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chief Myers.
We were able to host a hazmat awareness class, first time we've done that. And you're correct, free food brings them out. We had, 35, 40 people because we had some free food, so it worked out great. Those of you who've never taken it, it's probably one of the worst classes that we could possibly take. It's so important, so it's glad to have that many people show up, and definitely the free food was great. So, sure everybody's seen that our tax passed. Thanks to everybody that did vote for it. If you didn't, I totally understand that. This will enable to help people that don't live here help us pay for it instead of just us having to pay for it. So they had a good plan to start with. I anticipate that plan changing several times between now and the time this is done. I think they're going to start collecting July the 1st. So we're going to start seeing money till September, and they'll run till the end of June of 2021. They're anticipating on it raising $11 million. So if that's the case, and hopefully that'll help keep us from having to spend a lot of money ourselves. But went to a really interesting coronavirus class today. I was hoping they would explain how the toilet paper is becoming cure for this, but they didn't really explain that. So all they could tell people is just wash your hands. You know, I mean, that's about all they could tell you. So they went over their protocols and how they're going to handle ambulance calls going into this thing. They'll tell us to, if there's a travel travel history, they're going to have a stage where we're not going to be try to get infected. So it's basically run-of-the-mill stuff. But other than that, we've had pretty basic month. That's all I got.
Any questions for Chief Myers? Christie, you've had an interesting month, couple of months.
She liked free
Keep
food.
it exciting. Okay, so first on the budgets, overall they look good. We do have, the general fund looks out of whack a little bit. We've spent about 62% of our capital outlay line item already, which is what we've set aside for some building. Plus our first of the year expenses that are heavy. So I'm not concerned about that budget. I think it'll even itself out as we go throughout the year, but that one looks off right now. And then the street department that Joe pointed out is showing $35,000 over budget, but we're expecting a $45,000 repayment. So that one will work itself out. I do want to point out that we had an increase in sales tax for the first time in I think 12 months. So that was a really nice change, and we hope that that continues to be the trend.
So Christie, before you move on, because there was some concern about our sales tax and it being down, and I gave what I thought was a pretty good explanation of how sales tax works on our last Ask the Mayor. But how much is our sales tax up year over year so far? This month over
5%, 5.7%.
5.7% up.
That's city sales tax. The county was up 7 by itself, so an average of 6% for the two of them.
But I think that's pretty amazing that we're up 6% just city sales tax, roughly.
And the water department also is showing that it's $13,000 over budget. Part of that is we have been approved to use part of our depreciation funds for some work that Isaac's doing, up to $25,000. We've spent about 17 of that and have not reimbursed ourselves yet. We're waiting to do a one-time reimbursement, so that may continue to go in the negative until we get that reimbursed, but that's the reason for that. Other than budgets, hopefully you guys all got my email last week that the general fund was hacked again. So we went through the process again of closing that account, opening a new one, getting all of our ACH payments and everything changed over. There were 11 transactions this time that totaled over $36,000. After that account was closed, there was about 10 more transactions that were attempted that didn't go through, obviously. We have completely closed that account and opened a new one. I have talked to our bank employees here in town, as well as some that are actually in Stuttgart, I believe is where their home base is. They don't feel we have a weakness on the city side of it, which makes me feel a little bit better. But they don't necessarily know where the weaknesses are either, which is a little scary. They have turned everything over to the FBI. They did call me with a list of about 6 names, wanting to know if they were familiar to us. They weren't. And they don't necessarily know that they're even legitimate names, but they were names associated with those transactions. But the bank is investigating that, or the FBI, they've turned it over to the FBI, so hopefully, I don't know if we'll ever hear anything on our end, if they come up with that or not, but it has been turned over to them. We do, just so the council knows, the ACH transactions that the city does are all -2 to government entities or from government entities. So we're doing them for payroll taxes, deposits of our franchise taxes, property taxes. The 2 companies that ACH deposit property taxes, or franchise taxes, sorry, are Cox and AEP, so they're large companies. But other than those 2 companies, everything else we do, either going out or coming in ACH, are all government accounts, so we're not paying everyday bills through ACH. In order to do that, you actually have to get authorization through legislative audit to do those, and it's quite a process, so it's just something I've never done. There's issues with the auditor with using ACH because you have to have 2 signatures on checks and all that, so it's just never been worth my time to do that, so we've not set up, so we don't have a lot of things going through ACH, so I feel like the ones that we are doing should be safe. The bank also doesn't feel like this incident was related to the last one. They're different, the transactions were done were different, so they don't necessarily feel like that they are associated. The one thing that we are doing is starting a new program the bank has just recently started offering called Positive Pay. We're going to do training, Amanda and I are going to do training on that this coming Monday and get that set up and started. It's basically a program where we will have to go into the accounts, online banking, each morning, and we will authorize every transaction that's trying, or each transaction that's trying to come through that day. That's going to be time consuming and quite a process, but having to close accounts and start all over every 2 months is time consuming and quite a process also. So I think it'll be worth it once we get used to it. It'll just be something we do on a regular basis. We are going to start, I think right now, until we know, kind of get the hang of it, we're going to start with just the one account. But as soon as we feel like we're comfortable with it and aren't sending checks back that we want to be paid and know how the system works, then we will put all of the accounts that have checks coming out of it regularly on that system. So hopefully we won't be talking about this again anytime soon.
And I would also add that West Fork isn't the only town that's suffering from this right now. This is, Misty, you may have heard some stuff while you're down Little Rock about it. I know I've received some emails that have mentioned that cities, especially small cities, are being targeted with this type of stuff. Even Fayetteville is getting hit pretty regular, so it's just part of life.
The world we live in.
Yeah.
And it's just getting worse.
Some questions?
No? Okay. So we don't have any old business this month. Got everything taken care of from last month's meeting last month. We'll move into our new business. And the first item up is to discuss our recycle center and the possible closing of the recycle center. Isaac, how do you want to start with that?
Well, I can start, Robin Reed is here from Boston Mountain Solid Waste, which is where we take our solid, or our recycling. She had sent me our tonnage since we have taken inland as our trash focus. We have dropped about 40,000 pounds, or about 40, is that right, 40,000 pounds of recycling, which is about right. I'm not sure how many people in Fayetteville or in West Fork have recycling. Is it 75, 80%? We have a lot of recycled cans. So we feel like that we're servicing the county more than we are the city. And I've got some pictures of what our recycle center usually looks like on a day-to-day basis. We get just miscellaneous trash, you know, they just throw stuff on the ground. We get coffee pots and keyboards and just whatever. And we've dealt with this for
It's been over a year.
yeah, I mean, since we went unmanned, we've dealt with this at some point. Now we are seeing trash actually showing up in the recycle bins when they get over there to Robin. Now I'm assuming y'all have to sort that by hand or just trash it?
But we have to sort it by hand, and if it's wet, the paper's wet or something like that.
If the newspaper's wet, if somebody leaves the bin open on the newspaper, then that's just trash. So we really feel like we're spinning our wheels instead of helping. So that's why we are trying to look at either scaling back or different options for our recycle center. The city don't have means to hire somebody to man our recycle center full-time or even part-time. So we are dependent on it to be unmanned, and I've kind of left it up to the public to you know, keep it clean and police the place for us. So, and that option has failed. So, Robin was probably here when it started, or pretty close, so she can tell you what all was done leading up to the recycle center with the grants and stuff. I think, Robin, did I speak out of place there?
Yeah, I was around.
I think she was around.
Yeah.
Come on up, Robin.
Yeah, just come on up. Don't be bashful.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so West Fork's in a kind of an interesting position where we've had a recycle center.
Right.
We had a paid volunteer, and I'm not sure what that definition really is, but that's what we called it. It was kind of like an employee that we paid every week, like the rest of the employees. There wasn't a lot of volunteer work. But there was, to Jennifer's point earlier, we had a ton of volunteer support for the recycle center when it first opened, and I'm sure you're aware of that. And a lot of people put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get that thing going, and that was great. But over the course of time, those people have all kind of moved on, and unfortunately, no one has kind of came in to fill that void. And so I thought we were really we were achieving a pretty good accomplishment for West Fork when we said we're going to open it 6 days a week, but self-police it. And I kind of felt that's what some of the other cities were doing. Fayetteville, I think, has some unmanned recycles. But can you speak to whether other cities are doing unmanned, to whether other cities are manning them? Are they facing the same problems we are with the trash?
I think any unstaffed drop-off you're going to find will look like this. I know Fayetteville and Greenland both, they have unmanned drop-offs, and they look like this pretty much on a daily basis, where people, they go drop off the recycling, and while they're there, they just got this bag of trash, or they're not really sure what to do with this, so they just leave it there and hope somebody will do something with it. Versus your staff drop-offs, they look clean. You know, we have several just rural drop-offs where we go out to a community once a month, but we do send staff with it, and that's what will help it come back clean. I think this is a really common problem. Isaac and I have been trying to figure out some different options. Can you go ahead and go into those? And this was a great program. I was at the county whenever this first started, and you had a really great volunteer base, and there was a lot of, like you said, blood, sweat, and tears put into this. It was a great program. It's just kind of fallen to the wayside. And also, I think when you have it where it's really pretty where it's at, it's kind of a park-like setting, but it's also kind of out of sight, so people are more likely to dump, which is a common issue. One of the things we suggested to Isaac was, and some cities have done this as well, as as you progress and start offering curbside recycling to your residents, you still want to have some services out there. So one of the options we discussed was just leaving the cardboard trailer, but moving it to a more public location, and that would be something we could service for you on a regular basis. So that would, take that.
Well, we could even do that probably with a glass bin of some sort, since Inland is not taking glass. So there are some options that we have to go ahead and help the community take those items, because I mean, the little old trash can, especially around Christmas time, you fill it up with cardboard. It's just a matter of minutes. So yeah, the cardboard is not much hassle. We can leave it out there where we drive every day in our parking lot. So if we drive by it and there's a cardboard box laying there, we stop, pick it up, and we can keep that clean. And she's right, it is over there outside. I don't go over there every day. There's days when nobody goes over there, when it's locked. So we just don't see it.
Sure.
So.
And Robin, I know Greenland is making a big push to expand their recycle center.
They got a grant, they received in October to expand the recycle center, so they'll be doing that. And so one of the things we're also going to do is set out flyer to kind of the area around the city of Westport, just to notify residents of the drop-off locations that are going to be available, and then also the change in the service and the cardboard collection here.
Does Greenland, do they take everything?
They do. Yeah, and I think they go in at least 2, maybe 3 times a day and clean it up. So
it's actually
it is an admin site as well.
They have a gentleman on staff that is pretty much their street department he goes by there 3 or 4 times a day and cleans up. That's what, when speaking with him, he says he spends most of his time in the recycle center. So Fayetteville takes care of all their water and sewer needs, so they have one employee that fixes potholes and keeps the recycle center clean.
So we'd be able to have something for glass?
We could figure out something.
I think we can
that
figure
could be
it
a
out.
possibility.
Yeah.
Because the things that are already being recycled, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I think we're taking care of the county on, but the glass, we did have to take it to Fayetteville, but I mean, I don't really mind taking mine.
And we could probably work out a deal where Robin and them could come down once a month like they do some of the other rural communities, and we just have a Saturday that's a recycle day when they're here as well. So
yeah, we go to Winslow currently.
Yeah, they go to Winslow.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is moving a container out of that alcove between, the metal building and the shed.
Yeah.
Into a more visible area, maybe some signage on what no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
With like 2 things, and that would be there.
Well, we literally just have a cardboard trailer and probably a glass bin.
Okay. What about the percentage of people that haven't availed themselves of Inland or Orion's service on recycling?
That is a huge question. I don't know. They'll either be forced to get a recycle cart or...
Well, that was what I was leading into, is that one way or another, it's got to be dealt with, I think. And it leads into, does the city make it mandatory to pick up the recycling service?
So, I think I'm not understanding your question completely, but I don't think it's, tell me if I'm getting off track. It's not mandatory to recycle.
No.
So, I mean, the residents could just as easily keep a trash service and not recycle anything, or they have the option of getting a recycle bin, having curbside recycling, or if they don't like that option, they could do the once a month, or they could take it to Greenland or Fayetteville.
Well, let me clarify my thoughts. Like the dumpster at the community center, how often is the honor system busted on that, and does it get filled up?
I'm sure daily. There's not that much trash.
And that was what I was kind of leaning towards, and I only asked that because I'm down a little ways on the other side of the fence, and it's easy to tell when feral raccoons show up and they're not taking things out, they're putting it in. It's pretty audible, and so I was just sort of wondering, I wonder what's going to happen.
I see what you're saying. So are we going to have other dumping issues? Hang on just a second, Mark. Is anybody else on the council, a couple of members of the community got questions? Mark?
I just wanted to suggest what we've done over in Madison County, there, close to my plant. There's a manned recycle center / trash there, and it's open 2 days a week. That's it. It's locked up tight the rest of the time. It's been there for years and stays clean. And the county really respects it. There's a lot of folks down there those 2 days. It works pretty good. And like I said, there's recycling going on there, so you don't have to pay to recycle. You just pay to charge you for your trash. And it's probably more than paying wages, even though it's there. You keep the thing cleaned up, and the place looks nice all the time.
And so I would say to that so we used to have something similar to that. And at one time, and Robin can speak to this far more than I can, but at one time, there was enough money in recycling that the recycle center wasn't costing the city of West Fork any money. But it's currently, I think we spend a couple $100, I don't remember the exact figure, $260 a month or something in fuel, running trailers back and forth to Prairie Grove. At one time, there was enough sales that was covered. And I think
The recycling prices is down. So
right there, recycling is, we don't want to talk about it, but the fact of the matter is, some of the recycling is probably going in the landfill just because they can't get rid of it. Yeah, so, and you can speak more to that if you care to, and we don't have to.
18 months ago, we were making $200 a ton on cardboard, as an example, and now we're making 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a drastic.
Right, and so that has been part of our issue with our paid volunteer, was, at one time there was some money to support that, but that money dried up and we were still paying our volunteer every week. So that's why we tried to go to this unmanned thing. Jennifer?
Well, I think one thing that is going to disappear is the newsprint, is the newspaper's no longer going to be delivered. And so that will reduce the amount of newspaper that anybody wants to recycle, because it'll only be on Sundays that they'll deliver it at the end of the month. And if you want, you'll have to read it online. And so you won't have that daily paper consumption. I don't know how much
You're right.
we actually get there, but that might be a positive to our enforcement situation here if we don't have to worry about recycling that.
When we did the recycle center, it was a real necessity. But now that we have curbside, I think we did have a fabulous group of people that worked hard all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a season, and I think now that we have curbside service, it should be up to the individual. They're going to do it or not, and most people, I think, that really want to recycle do.
I love my curbside.
Yeah, me too. I'm thrilled with it, so.
Just on the trash.
Well, it's not that everybody that comes down there is throwing out trash. It's a few folks
That are running
who are ruining it for the rest of the county, so.
But we have it available to us now that we did not have at that time. That was a very good thing at the time that it started, because everybody wanted to be more involved and got more involved. And it probably taught us a lot along the way to be ready for when we had curbside.
When we switched it to unmanned, we actually made it available 2 more days during the week to try to alleviate the folks coming down there with truckloads of recycling that they've kept for all week long, that they could come, anytime during the day and drop the recycling off. And we thought that would help keep it clean, but that's not the case.
Well, and to Isaac's point when we first started talking, we've seen a minimal reduction in the tonnage that were taken out of the recycle center, which means that providing curbside recycling, we probably increased the amount of people in town who are recycling, but we did very little to change the amount of recycling coming into our recycling plant. So, point being, we're providing, West Fork is providing recycling. A lot of that is coming from the county, outside of city limits, which is, again, fine, but somebody's, taking advantage of it. Isaac has finally got rid of some of the pictures that he's taken down there. He posted those on Facebook at one point, thank you. So there's other activities going on down there as well, and they're littering with that even. So I would be very happy if we could do, you know, a trailer out there in the front, and provide that as a service. Keep, and I don't mean this, if this comes off wrong, know that I didn't mean for it to come off wrong. But the point I'm trying to make is, we pay Isaac and his staff, a very comparable salary, to do a very specific job, to maintain our streets, to maintain our water system, and more importantly right now, to fix the I&I problem we have on our sewer system. And Isaac is aggravated when he calls me to tell me that he's had guys down there for 2 hours picking up trash, but he has no idea how aggravated I am that the tax dollars are going to pick up trash that could be solving a sewer issue that is causing some serious discomfort to some of our citizens on their sewer bill. So.
It's just sad that people can't take better care of things that are provided for them. That's just the bottom line. Whether it's one person or 10 people.
So do we need a motion to do just 2 trailers, like a glass and or is that something you've already got a plan for, or?
We're working on that. I think Robin and I need to sit back down and probably explore our best option. We just wanted y'all to be aware of what maybe coming down the pipe, so.
It's an issue, no doubt.
Because I'm foreseeing some blowback if we do end up closing it, so.
And for good reason. Like everyone has stated, there's a lot of good people put a lot of time and effort to establish that. And it is unfortunate in that they've put that time in there and now they're going to feel like it was all for nothing. But that's not the case. They led West Fork into curbside recycling essentially, and I hope they realize that. But their efforts have really, no one has come in to fill the void after they have done their part of that job.
So, you know, if it ends up being a once a month, you know, on a Saturday we set up down there and take recycling for that day, or we do go to just a cardboard trailer and a couple of glass bins. We'll see what works the best for us. And Robin's schedule, I mean, she's busier than I am, so.
Robin, how hard does it make it when they mix it, when they should?
It's very time consuming.
That's what I thought.
Yes, and it also causes, you know, if it's in the paper, and then, I mean, there's all kinds of trash in the paper, you know, we just have to throw it away, so it's complete waste.
So really it's just hauling off the trash.
It is, because then that's an expense for us, and then, you know, it's taking.
We hauled it over there for nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Isaac's staff time, you know, because he's having to help sort it as well, so. It's time consuming for y'all and us, costing us both money.
Well, I think the people who are serious about it are already doing it, and the rest of them are just using it as a trash dump.
So is the council, and I don't mean to, if you guys have more questions, by all means, fire away, but is the council okay with what we're talking about here, considering this, letting Isaac and Robin explore some ideas concerning this, but ultimately, I mean, we're talking about closing the recycle center as we know it.
You can't really allow it to continue as it is. So, I mean, you're gonna have to look at some alternatives.
That won't, obviously won't affect the Master and Gardener program or anything else down there.
That could be, that land could be used for something else too down there, couldn't it?
It could be, and at some point we may have to address the Master Gardener situation. So I went through there last year and it was to the point where I was ready to send Isaac over there with a brush hog and clean that thing up.
There weren't any tomatoes to be picked, is what you're saying.
And so what I am saying ultimately is, I think there's a question out there about the city providing some extra funds for the Master Gardener Association over there. And what I'm saying at the council meeting, and we'll reiterate at the next Ask the Mayor, is if that thing isn't cleaned up, we're gonna have some other issues, that they'll be worried about something other than the city funding their seed program.
Well, I think they exemplified or explained why very well.
Yeah.
I think it's at least,
I make a motion, we let them just go forward and do what they need to do.
I'll second it.
I mean, they're looking at the best for the city and then. They are in the know about what needs to be done, and if we can't trust them with it, then we're just.
But your motion would include having Isaac come back
Well, of
before any
course.
formal action.
Sure.
So,
I say let them go do it, but yeah, he can come
By
back and
next
tell us
month's
about
council
it.
meeting, we'll have a plan moving forward.
Okay,
So,
is that fair to the council? By next meeting, they'll have a plan, to present to us.
Oh, they're gonna draw the horns on the man. I think it's fine.
Did you build something out there recently?
We did recently build a recycle drop-off at our facility in Prairie Grove that's used very heavily.
And didn't you, at this facility, I thought y'all provided funds or built something at that facility. Did you put a floor in or something?
There was a grant for the floor, a concrete floor to be put in the big metal building.
So if we were to end whatever service was being offered at that time, I just want to make sure we don't run afoul of the grant.
Isaac and I have been working on reviewing the old grant documents to make, because we're not really clear on recycling trailers as far as if this would purchase with grant funds or city funds. If they were purchased with grant funds, we'll follow up on that. Where if you choose to, you can either just turn it back to the district, the equipment, or you can apply to the district board to buy, sell or trade it. Another option. But then any of those funds do have to go towards recycling purposes.
Considering you're involved, I shouldn't have had to ask, I'm sorry I asked that question. You guys are already on top of that, so thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, we are working on that. We will, anything we do, also develop an education plan to educate the residents of your city as well as those in the surrounding area.
So we have a motion and a second.
So I thought that was premature.
I think it is.
Could be, does it need to be withdrawn?
No, in favor.
Okay. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. We'll be looking forward to your plan next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, for coming over.
You're very welcome.
The next item of new business is to authorize Christy Dryman to open a new general fund checking account with Heath Cottle, Isaac Carson, Chad Harrison, and Christy Dryman as authorized signers.
Yeah.
I just want to know what she's going to do with it this time. I'll make a motion.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. We are now legal in that area. Item 3, we have a couple change orders for some additional power and data outlets, some structure framing. We had a credit for removal of the bond premium. That was all for the library, correct? And extension of the contract completion date of 91 days with our general contractor. Are there any questions concerning that item? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion second to approve these change orders. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Item number 4, approve police policy for intranasal naloxone. Is it naloxone, is that anything? Okay. So Officer Goggins gave kind of a brief update on what's going on with this policy change. Are there any questions on the council concerning that? Is everyone okay with this?
They're gonna be trained, I mean, they're gonna have proper training, so.
And my understanding, Officer Goggins, is you guys will have the proper training whether we adopt this policy or not, correct?
I think they have to.
Yes, sir. My understanding of the statute is it now has to be incorporated in the Basic Law Enforcement Academy. I'm not sure the effective date, but going forward, it's gonna be a standard thing. I don't know that it's gonna be something we have to train on every year, or if we don't train on it this year, we're foul of the law, but either way, we're gonna get ahead of it, and everyone's gonna have at least a basic training on recognizing that. Whether we deploy it, where everybody has it or not, that's a separate issue. Like I said, in my understanding, we're not required for everybody to have it in their right hip pocket everywhere they go, but we will definitely have it along. It'll just be kind of rolled in with our CPR training, and we'll be.
Do y'all have the nasal right now?
We initially got a donation from, I can't remember her name.
Carrie Warren.
Yeah.
That they were all injectable,
Yes.
to which everybody's like, hey, whoa, we're not sticking people with stuff. So they've now transitioned, I think they're gonna be able to take these little kits that are like a syringe, there's a two-part syringe that has a little, instead of a needle, it has a cone-shaped little foam thing, hole in it, and you basically charge that and then stick it in their nose and push it up. But my understanding, they're gonna transition to that, and I think they've talked to, I know Central EMS is taking this and leading with it, their training division, and they're gonna say, hey, thanks for the donation, but we need something that's nasal. And that's kind of the standard across the board. I'm not sure, I know I briefly read like the hour before coming in here, trying to brush up on some of that stuff, that nasal stuff is the preferred. Some of the legislation actually mentions specifically nasal delivery. So that's what they're going to be going to, whether that's in the high dollar little, you've seen the white little.
That's what we got.
Oh, yeah.
But,
A lot of it it goes anyway, you can do at nasal, even if it isn't injected.
So our concern as far as that is, one, if we can get it donated, obviously we can go with that. Two, if it isn't donated, are we doing something that has a shelf life, or it's going to be something that's stored in vehicles, is it going to be something we replace every year? We'll have to look at that and do a little cost benefit analysis there on which type to go with, but we're kind of sitting back right now. I think that foundation's going to step up and probably donate what we use, is my assumption.
I want to say that what I have in my car that was given to us has got like a 2-year expiration date on it.
Yeah.
See, they do, but they're saying it's only a percentage, the way I understand. It's still good in 3 years, it just ain't strong.
Yeah, it just loses like
Yeah.
2%.
Yeah.
I suppose you could give them an invoice when they get through bombing.
Please sign here.
It probably doesn't work that
And
way,
that's one thing,
obviously.
when we first got that, it was for the officer,
Correct.
in case someone got into something.
Yeah, I remember
It was
dermal
Yes.
transfer.
But, we carry it, but our policy is you don't leave it in your car. You take it in, when you get to work, you put it in your car, when you go home, you take it back in, because of the temperature.
Yeah, and this, I'd say we're in the early stages of this, trying to get ahead of it as far as, definitely the training. Now, as far as specifically how we're going to deploy it, into those little details, I wouldn't want to speak to that exactly on those specifics as far as the protocol or policies, but definitely getting trained on it, so we have some experience on it. And the other good thing with our first responders, especially Central EMS and our firefighters, I'm not saying it's not needed, but most situations, within the time we're assessing the scene, talking to the family, looking around, trying to make the case, hey, is this an overdose or not? We typically have a first responder at Central EMS within, a minute or two of that. So I don't see us in the next month just everybody up the nose. I've only, myself, I've been here a few years, but I've only witnessed it maybe a couple times. Most recent was last month in Greenland. But it's not something I think we're going to be putting
That's
that
your
in.
cycling stuff?
I don't have any part of that. I guess I missed that.
Officer Goggins, on this, what we're trying to do is, West Fork is trying to adopt the state policy.
Yes, sir. That, I believe that policy, I think came from either CJI. We didn't come up with that. That was provided as a model policy, and we basically put the police across the top there.
Yeah.
I didn't even format it
That's
to.
a class. I'll second with the CDA.
So we have a motion and second to approve this, to adopt this.
If it's gonna be part of the academy, they're gonna have to do it anyway. I mean, whether we say yes or no, it's gonna have to come down to it. So, and they're gonna be trained, so I'm quite comfortable.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Thank you, Officer Goggins.
Now, one thing with this policy, let's say they don't get that donated, but since we have a policy, does that mean we have to have Narcan in their vehicle?
But that's not what this is saying. no.
We had that issue first when Chief Watts had me go through and revamp some of the policies and basically said, put everything in there and then we'll trim it off, which resulted in everything in there and nothing trimmed off. We realized that we got to that there was a mandate that we have it.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, the chief came to you, it was probably last year, and we're like, hey, we're timeout. And we had it mandated, and that was pulled off.
Gotcha.
My understanding of this is not mandated, except that we'll be trained and aware of it, and training is the mandate, not necessarily having it. And my understanding, reading the statute as well, that it doesn't say the officer has to have it, but it does say it will be included in the class training material for standard. All officers will go through this at least one time in their career.
If they do have it, they're allowed to use it though.
Yes.
It's basically what it boils down to, right? They're trained, they have it, they can use it. If they don't have it, wait for EMS because they do.
Yeah, it all comes out of the individual officer as well. If he sees a person down and they got pinpoint pupils, but he has no other signs, or he or she, sorry, has no other signs of, drug paraphernalia, there's no family member there for history, they're just going to make the call. They're not going to hurt anybody by
It's not
it.
gonna hurt. Yeah, it's just gonna make them throw up for nothing.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, it's just another option to add another tool. And like I said, I don't think we'll be using it a lot, but it could save a person's life, so we like to have the tools available.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the mayor's comments. One, I'd like to congratulate Misty on maintaining her certification through the Arkansas Municipal League. I think Christy sent that out to everyone.
She did?
Yes, okay. So, congratulations. Good work. Obviously, that takes some time and effort to keep up with the continuing education requirements. And I believe you are the first council member in Westport to achieve the certification and also the recertification, correct? Is that right? So, other comments, I just want to make the council aware that I have spoken to a lady about painting a mural on the front of this building. She is supposed to get us some ideas emailed probably in the next couple weeks. She's excited about it, willing to donate some time, and I assured her that, I didn't know that we had money for it right now. But I think she wants to make it happen whether we can find money or not. So I'm anxious to see her thoughts. She did send me some emails of some other work that she's done on some other projects. But her idea, she actually lives in Elkins, but they come over here some, her husband. But she's looking at some of West Fork's history and some of our monuments. She wants to try to incorporate that. I told her ultimately I wanted it to have something that designated the building as courts and police, but I thought it'd be cool to incorporate some of West Fork history into it. So we'll see what she comes up with. So we may be talking about that in the coming months. Also wanted to update the council that as we are getting closer to completion of the sewer line to Fayetteville, I want to be sure and take the opportunities that we have there to highlight West Fork, to sell West Fork, if you will. I have been invited to a group to speak with a group of real estate professionals, basically selling West Fork. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be coming up in a couple of months. I've actually talked to Officer Goggins tonight about getting us a good detailed traffic count of what's coming into West Fork from all directions so that we can start to get some advertisement out about that. That was one of the things that the developer was asking about the other day. So the developer specifically asked about population. He asked our school system rating, and he had another question. I don't remember what it was now. But he had some specifics that he wanted to know before they start looking seriously at West Fork. And so we'll try to get some traffic counts started. That way we can get that publicized, get some more information out, have it at the ready
I want fire rating for insurance purposes.
Oh, well, we're in good shape there.
Yeah, we
so.
are.
Anyway, that's the update on that. I don't have anything else, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. One second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Samantha?